going to hold off. And Cody Bellinger and the Dodgers, hottest team in the National League in the month of June, get ready to face off with the New York Mets. Welcome inside. Joe Davis with the Hall of Famer John Smoltz. Ken Rosenthal joins us in a moment. And so, what do you want to talk about? Should we talk about offense? Or?
Yeah, offense is going to be the theme tonight. No, not really. If you're still into starters, you know, if that's your thing, you're going to love this game. I feel like a little kid waiting for this game. Clayton Kershaw coming back, Jacob deGrom in the peak of his career.
And as far as Kershaw goes, starting pitcher injuries have been a big part of the story for the Dodgers. They've been able to weather them, 13-5 in the month of June without a lot of their big guns, and they get one of them back tonight in Kershaw.
Yeah, no rehab start. This is going to be his start to what he hopes is a full campaign the rest of the way. He wants to put that injury behind him, and for the Dodgers, I think it's going to be so important to watch and monitor this ace. He has been the best in baseball. The last couple years he's dealt with this injury. Look for this second half from this point on for Clayton to be determined that that's behind him.
For the Mets, meanwhile, they started this season 11-1. It's been a downright disaster since then, but the biggest bright spot has been Jacob deGrom, who has turned himself into one of the top arms in baseball.
He's been unbelievable. I can't remember a year like this where the results don't match the effort. He has been as good a pitcher as Scherzer, anybody in the National League. You look at the numbers, again, they don't make sense from a team concept, but I can tell you this, there's one bright star. Every time he takes the mound, they at least feel like that's their best chance to win a game.
And probably the best competition to Max Scherzer for the National League Cy Young at this point. It's the Dodgers and the Mets. West Coast meets East Coast on Baseball Night in America with the first pitch coming up after this. But it looks like we're going to avoid the rain, even though forecast much of the day pretty poor. Dodgers have beaten the Mets 10 consecutive meetings going back to 2016. They swept the series last year. They won the opener last night by a score of 5-2 behind home runs from Cody Bellinger and Yasiel Puig. couple of guys that are in Dave Roberts' lineup for Game 2 against Jacob deGrom. It looks like this. Jock Peterson to lead it off, then Max Muncy hitting second with Justin Turner. Bellinger and Puig back-to-back at 4 and 5. Grandal does the catching. Hernandez and Utley the double play combo behind Clayton Kershaw. And a tall task for that group tonight. Jacob deGrom with his 151 earned run average to lead baseball, and he's been even better since his first few.
Really been unbelievable and hard to explain, but he has elevated his fastball up in the zone. When he gets in trouble, he's been one of the best with runners in scoring position, and the numbers again are mind-blowing. It is very difficult for a pitcher to go through this stretch and not bring everything into the fold and feel like you have to pitch perfect every single time out. He's handled it great. We'll see how the rest of the first half goes for him and the Mets,
which have dropped 21 of 27, coming to the game at 31 and 42 overall, while the Dodgers 13 and 5 in June are 39 and 35 overall. Off we go with a fastball up and strike one on Jock Peterson.
That's the success, and I think the Dodgers are going to say, you know what, I'm not going to wait around. We talked to Dave Roberts, and I think aggressive is going to be their approach, and they're going to try to get the fastball before they get deep in the count.
Peterson lays a bunt down, and it's 0-2.
Finally somebody. But here's the thing that's amazing about that. It's not that hard to do, and I see more guys not work on it. Just sacrifice bunt and then run. But that's the right approach. That's what, take what the defense is giving you.
Jock Peterson starting the day for the Dodgers and hitting a ground ball off of deGrom, who recovers in time to throw him out. So Peterson the first out. Let's take a look at the defense around deGrom. In the outfield, it's Nimmo in left with Conforto in center. Made one of the best catches you'll ever see in the opener last night. Jose Bautista's in right field, and in the infield it's Frazier at third, Rosario and Cabrera up the middle. Flores the first baseman, and Devin Mesoraco does the catching. That was something last night, the diving play Conforto made. As Max Muncy climbs in and drills one down the right field line. You talked about attacking the fastball. Muncy does just that, and on the first pitch puts the Dodgers in front with his 14th home run against Jacob deGrom here in the first.
This young man, since he has been up with the Dodgers, when he looks for a pitch in his area, he doesn't miss it, and that is what he's done. Total change in his whole game, and now it's working for the Dodgers. Middle, and he knows it.
Seventh home run in the month of June for Max Muncy. Justin Turner comes up, cuts and misses, strike one. A guy who had a couple of seasons in the majors with Oakland, 2015 and 16. They cut him loose. Dodgers picked him up, put him in AAA last year. Got an opportunity this year because of injuries and has taken off. It's off of the glove of Frazier, and Turner's aboard with one out. How about our keys to the game? I think the Dodgers already accomplished one of them.
Yeah, run into one for the Dodgers. That is, pick your spots and try to get a homer, which has been their recipe of success. And for the Mets, I mean, it's a lot to ask, but get a complete game. Don't let the bullpen do what they've done in Jacob deGrom's game, and that's not very well. So the Dodgers already off to a nice start, being aggressive with fastballs, and a tough play there for Frazier.
This Keys sponsored by Ford. 1-on-1 out. Cody Bellinger, the hitter, had a grand slam last night, and what has been a bit of a rough follow-up season to his Rookie of the Year campaign as he's continued to tinker, trying to find a swing that feels right. That's inside, and it's 2-0.
Well, after really not coming close on a couple pitches from Wheeler, he picked on the one pitch he needed with 3 runners on and got 4 instant RBIs with a mammoth shot similar to Muncy's.
Cuts and misses, 2-1.
This pitch needed to be about 4 inches higher or less, and it would have been a different result. But Bellinger, pretty much everybody knew what was coming, including himself, and he made the adjustment. And you don't know what that'll do for the rest of this month for him. Maybe that changes his approach a little bit by not getting so big with the swings, unlike those.
Still just 22 years old.
It's just tough to stay off of that pitch as a hitter, and especially when you see the velocity coming in at 98. That's the area of success for DeGrom this year so far.
Here it comes with the 2-2. And it goes back up with a fastball. It's fouled off. Turner at first with one gone, and DeGrom to Bellinger with a 2-2. Taken low, and the count goes full.
Here's how impressive to me the year has been so far for DeGrom. Of all the innings he's pitched, he's only been behind the entire year, now 7 innings. That's amazing.
Yet the Mets are 6-9 in his 15 starts. He gets Bellinger swinging. 2 out. So up comes Yasiel Puig in a 1-0 game in the first inning. Puig hit his 9th home run of the season last night in that 5-2 Dodger win. And has gotten DeGrom twice in his career. Strike one.
Well, the Dodgers have already done something that rarely any team has been able to do. In the first inning, his ERA was 0.6 coming in. Second inning, 0.64. Third inning, 0.64. So getting him early has not been something that a lot of teams have been able to do, and many getting any runs really.
Ground ball is short, picked off by Rosario. He feeds Cabrera at second, and that's that in the first inning. But a solo home run from Max Muncy has the Dodgers in front before Clayton Kershaw takes the ball in his first start off of the disabled list. June, just his second start since early May. Missed almost all of May with biceps tendonitis. Came back on May 31st, and after 5 innings left the game with a back injury. He's back from that tonight.
Yeah, it's unusual. I mean, he's a veteran. He knows what he's doing, but it's very unusual to miss that amount of time and not make a rehab. But there were some circumstances that led to him not making the rehab. Weather related, he's here. Probably won't pitch much past 4, I wouldn't think. But nonetheless, he's back on the mound for the Dodgers.
And he goes to work against Brandon Nimmo. Looks at a first pitch strike. Nimmo, one of the bright spots for the Mets this season. First chance at everyday playing time for him because of the injuries they've dealt with, and he's taken full advantage. Ball's behind Kershaw, 1-2. Thirty-year-old from Texas in his 11th major league season, home with an 0-2 and a breaking pitch at the bottom of the zone for strike 3. Sharp so far.
Nimmo's like, come on, I know this is the best in the world, but you don't have to give him every pitch. That's a really good breaking ball down in the zone. And Nimmo will look at that and probably go, okay, 2 of those may not have been strikes, but this is Clayton Kershaw.
Yeah.
Got to swing.
What am I going to do with that? There's that smile that Mets fans have come to enjoy. Todd Frazier with 1 out. Takes strike 1 in the corner.
See? Take all that time off and just pound in strikes. Who needs rehab?
And Kershaw, not a big fan of rehabbing in the minors. Did his best to talk the front office and Dave Robertson to stand around without going to Omaha, where AAA Oklahoma City is playing. But they had decided he was going to go there to start tonight. You mentioned the weather issues that were forecasted there. He took that forecast to Dave Robertson, the Dodgers, and said, look, let me stay here, start against the Mets. And got his way, and he's back in there for his 9th start of the season. Here he comes with the 1-2.
Well, it's just a bonus to obviously know that you're going to get Kershaw today, and a bonus for the Dodgers to hope that they're going to get them and him the rest of the year. But I just dug into all the career numbers, and it's just unbelievable what he's been able to do in his career, and obviously having much more of that to be played out.
Backdoor with a slider for strike 3. So he strikes out Nimmo with a curve, and now he gets Frazier looking with a slider. Take a look at the Mets batting order. Nimmo and Frazier both down on strikes. Then it's Cabrera hitting 3rd. Flores, Conforto, and Bautista form the middle of the order with Mesoraco, the catcher, and Rosario at short.
Backdoor slider. Pitch that starts out as a ball and is an absolute perfect pitch to a guy like Frazier who's looking for the ball in.
So now it's Asdrubal Cabrera who takes ball 1.
So one of the things that stood out to me that I think is so amazing, Kershaw's only lost 18 games where the team didn't score 3 or more runs. So in 2 runs or less, he's lost 50 of his games. 26 and 50. Just think about that. How many games? 101 games in his career. The team has scored 2 runs or less. He's won 26 of them. That is just an incredible feat in itself.
It's so odd to look and see the line where it is this year at 1-4. He had 4 losses all of last season when he finished runner-up to Max Scherzer for Cy Young and won another ERA title. Here in his first inning back from the DL, he gets back-to-back Ks and a soft ground out from Cabrera. 1-2-3 go the Mets in the first, and after 1 in New York, the Dodgers lead at 1-0. Budweiser takes some out to the ball game. Back in New York, ready for the second, where the Dodgers have a 1-0 lead on a Max Muncy home run against Jacob deGrom. Yasmani Grandal fouls off the first pitch, and the plan very clear for the Dodgers early on to be aggressive early in the count. Or the first 6 hitters have swung at the first pitch.
Yeah, as a team, they're pretty good on the first pitch. 347 coming into this series. Grandal has struggled the last 30 games, unlike what we're used to.
deGrom brings him a 1-1. Grandal swings and misses 1 and 2.
There's the 90-mile-an-hour changeup. The arm speed is fantastic. You got to get ready for 98. And there's 8 miles off of that pitch with no deviation in his windup.
Went back to it, taken for ball 2. Opponent's hitting 132 against that changeup. That's 3rd best in baseball. Goes back to the fastball, and the count goes full. Hernandez and Utley to follow for the Dodgers here in the second. As the 30-year-old Jacob deGrom lines and deals 3-2, and Grandal taps it foul. I mentioned the rough patch recently for Grandal. He was carrying the Dodgers for much of the first month. It's hitting .315 at the end of April, but 177 since. Making deGrom work to open this second. Here's the 8th pitch to Yasmani Grandal. Off of the hands to second, picked by Cabrera. 1 out.
That was a play that Cabrera made look pretty easy, but because of the depth that he was playing, you get that short hop between the dirt and the grass. Look where he's playing now. He goes and gets this right about there. That hop, if it hits the collar of the grass, can give second baseman problem, but it stays down and he gets his glove down just in time.
1-0 in the second as Kike Hernandez cues 1 foul. Making the start at short tonight. Back-to-back games out for Chris Taylor, who's still dealing with a tight hamstring, although Dave Roberts says he's available off of the bench tonight.
Obviously, you see this team on a daily basis. Do you think the power can continue at the rate at which, I mean, it's pretty historic in June what their home runs per game is at?
There's definitely been a big part of the difference as they've turned the season around after 16-26 start. 23-9 since then, best in the National League, and the home run production has pretty much doubled in those spans. Fastball catches the corner, and it's 2-2. On the black, strike 3. 2 out. You know, the Dodgers in mid-May sat 10 games below 500. They were swept in a 4-game series by the last place Reds. They then went to Miami, lost the first 2 games of that series. But since then have been one of the best teams in baseball to get right back into the race. With 2 out in the second, here is Chase Utley, who these New York fans love so much. They let him hear that. More home runs, more RBIs than any active player against the Mets. He takes ball 1.
Been doing it a long time, and of course the slide into second is the reason they have lost their not that they ever had a love affair with Utley. Never played here. He's had a great career. Battled some injuries in Philadelphia. put up ridiculous numbers there for a long period of time for second basemen. And he's been vital, really, from an influence standpoint with the Dodgers, keeping them around.
Ground ball to first, stopped by Flores. He'll take it to the bag and finish a 1-2-3 second for Jacob deGrom. Podcast is sponsored by Chevy. Chevy has earned JD Power Dependability Awards for cars, trucks, and SUVs. Dodgers 1, Mets nothing to the bottom of the second. Jacob deGrom with a 1-2-3 top of this inning after allowing the solo shot to Max Muncy in the first. Clayton Kershaw, who worked the 1-2-3 first inning on 12 pitches, gets back out there. Flores, Conforto, Bautista for the Mets. Wilmer Flores swings at the first pitch, and it's a lazy fly ball to Jack Peterson in left. 1 pitch, 1 out.
Well, for Clayton Kershaw, besides going out there and proving that he's healthy, why it's so important, his mechanics is not your average mechanics when you think about how he repeats it. His lower back is so important because he has this center base right here. If he'd keep going, it's one thing, but then he has that delay and pause, and so the stability of that lower back is so important as he delivers a pitch at a unique windup. That makes it difficult for the hitter to pick up the ball. He's got the north-south curveball, the hard slider, and of course, for the most part in his career, a fastball command that has been impeccable.
Michael Conforto with the bases empty and 1 out. Rips a line drive base hit to right. That makes its way all the way to the wall. Puig digs it out. Conforto stops at second with a 1-out double. First base runner of the night for the Mets as Conforto rips one into the corner.
Well, the interesting thing, I know it hasn't been a lot this year, but left-handers have had their way with Kershaw. You would think that's going to change, but Conforto needs to get going for the Mets because offensively they have missed Cespedes and they have had a hard time scoring, especially at home. Last in baseball in home average, last in baseball against left-handers.
They've lost 11 of their last 12 games in this ballpark. Jose Bautista with a man on and 1 out, takes a strike. 2-run home run for him last night, his first in a Mets uniform. They're opening the season in Atlanta. They cut him loose. Mets quickly picked him up. It's been a nice piece for him. Curve buckles his knees but misses 1-1. .37 years old in his 15th year in the majors. That's his 7th different team. On a 1-1. Takes inside, ball 2.
Kershaw does something a lot of pitchers probably couldn't. When you see the runner in second, he's looking at the runner in second, and then he goes home without picking up home. He knows where he wants to throw it. Watch how he just looks there, looks there, looks there, and then before he goes home, he's already delivered.
Down the line to left. Peterson won't get there. And this game is tied at 1 on back-to-back doubles from Conforto and Bautista.
I believe this was going to be the slider that he was trying. You see again the delivery of looking at the runner and then going before he locates, and then right on the inner half. Not a horrible pitch. Bautista also struggling against left-handers going into yesterday. He was hitting 100 before that home run.
And now Mesoraco looking at ball 1. That was one of the reasons they went and got Bautista, was to help out against left-handed pitching. Mesoraco, the return on the Matt Harvey deal with the Cincinnati Reds in early May. On a 1-0 from Kershaw. Takes ball 2. Caught the zone, 2-1. There's those reverse splits you're talking about.
Yeah, and that's going to change the more he gets in the reps. I think you know, in adjusting his style towards left-handers. Let's face it, there's not going to be that many left-handers in the lineup against him.
That's a 2-1 fly. This is low. 3 balls and a strike on Mesoraco.
The takeaways for tonight's performance are going to be how the ball's coming out of his hand, whether he has the crispness, and it looks like everything has been pretty good so far. He's pitching out of the stretch, experiencing the up and downs, all the process you would have in a rehab start he's having at the big league level.
Full count.
Once you pitch long enough, you kind of understand, you know what it takes. Certainly on paper there's been some mismatches with the Dodgers and the Mets, and a mismatch really with Kershaw against the Mets, not losing in the regular season.
And that's in 12 starts in his career against New York. He's 8-0 with a 184. Bautista's at second with 1 out, and Kershaw to Mesoraco with a 3-2. Sliders fouled off. Those numbers against the Mets lifetime. He's faced DeGrom head-to-head 1 time. That was in the division series, game 1, 2015, where DeGrom pitched out of his mind, struck out 13, didn't give anything up, and beat Kershaw. His 7th pitch to Mesoraco is a curve cued foul.
Strange the way baseball is. Clayton Kershaw didn't give up a run in spring training, I believe. 1 or none. I mean, that's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then comes out, has some tough luck, doesn't pitch, and of course he spends time on the DL. He goes 1-4 with a 2-something ERA. But how do you go and pitch in Arizona spring training and not give up a run?
Where the ball flies like crazy.
That is just, and a veteran of mine when I was breaking in, Charlie Lebrand, I was having a real good spring one year, and he goes, "Kid, what are you doing?" Like, what do you mean, what am I doing? He says, you're wasting all your bullets now. You don't want to waste your, don't throw your best stuff now.
Save it.
He said, give up a couple rockets. Get them out of the way. Give up some runs.
Ninth pitch from Kershaw. As Araujo grounds it foul again. I've heard Nomar Garciaparra talk about his perfect spring training at bat as a right-handed hitter was a line out to second.
Yeah. It's funny because I go down there and talk to some of the players, and Miguel Cabrera, I said, what are you trying to accomplish? I mean, you're one of the best hitters in the game. He says, I want to get jammed. I want to get beat. I want to hit one off the end of the bat. I want to go the other way. Like, he wanted to experience it all. That meant to a hitter is getting deeper. He was seeing it longer.
What a battle from Mesoraco to earn the first walk of the day against Kershaw.
And I would say, if you were just tuning in and didn't see anything and you would look at Kershaw's stats, that would be the one thing that would tell me he's not as right on the year because his walks are up. He's just not a guy that walks people. I mean, when you talk about in Kershaw's career, he's gone in campaigns where he's only given up 11 walks in 2016, 30 last year. His high mark in 2013, that's all I went back to, was 52, but 42 walks, 301 strikeouts. His walk to strikeout ratio is ridiculous. And I'm sure he'll get back to that form soon.
First and second with one out, and the 8-hitter Rosario grounds it to third. Turner steps on the bag and across the diamond for a double play. That finishes the Mets in the second, but they tie it at 1 on a double from Bautista. DeGrom in that division series in 2015. 7 shutout innings to beat Kershaw in game 1. And then he pitched game 5 as well. Gave up 2 runs over 6 innings. Won both those starts as the Mets beat the Dodgers on their way to what would become a National League pennant. On to the 3rd inning in this one, tied at 1, and Kershaw looks at strike 1 from DeGrom.
I'm just thinking the competitor in Kershaw is going up there to try and swing, I would think, but the reality is he probably should take it easy. Right? I mean, just work your way back in it. Get a few reps under your belt.
Track a couple pitches. He's down on 3 pitches. Opposing pitchers now 0 for 25 this year against Jacob deGrom, by the way. Let's look at the LG G7 pitcher profile. Almost identical stat lines.
Yeah, good luck. Try to pick out who's who.
Through 122 career starts.
It's an amazing stat. It's an amazing comparison. And yes, we're talking about Kershaw and deGrom. And if you haven't been following Jacob deGrom, he is right there with Kershaw at the same point of deGrom's career. Now, in fairness, he's older, and Kershaw was much younger when he piled up those numbers.
Jock Peterson looks to strike 1.
But the point is, it's like this is a guy that has snuck up on the scene of the Mets without much fanfare, without this, you know, hyped up, you got to see this kid pitch. And he has absolutely evolved and passed them all by, and has been the most consistent and relatively the most healthy. And the ace now, I know that term is used loosely. I get it. Losing the aces in our game, by the way.
Peterson lines a base hit to right center. And deGrom in his 5th major league season now. Debuted in 2014, was Rookie of the Year. You were there for his debut, and this was obviously in the middle of the Dark Knight. You had Matt Harvey, that was setting the world on fire. You had Syndergaard, who is developing a huge reputation himself. But you saw something from the start with deGrom where you're not one bit surprised at what he's become.
Not at all. I loved his arm side fastball command, which really now, as a left-hander stands in the batter's box, it's fastball away. It's his arm side. It's where he feels the most comfortable, and that was natural. And he would wear right-handers out on the pitch on that side. And now he's developed the ability to throw to both sides. He mixes in just enough secondary pitches, and I think his changeup is way underrated, by the way. And he has just gotten to a point where now he doesn't have to force velocity. It's loose, it's live, and it comes out of his hand exploding.
Facing Muncy, who took him deep his first time on the first pitch that he saw. Here he takes high, and it's 1-1.
See, that's the only time that he'll get underneath it from time to time is get underneath that pitch. It's interesting. Muncy crushes those middle end pitches, but pitchers have to make him be aware of the ball inside to get him off of it. And the mistakes he is making pitchers feel the pain.
On this 1-1, he leaves it up, and it's 2-1. The Dodgers developing a reputation for uncovering guys like this. Andrew Tolles 2 years ago came out of the middle of nowhere to give him a boost. Last year, Chris Taylor. And this year it's been Max Muncy. Nobody saw coming. That's a strike, and it's 2-2. He's with Oakland in 15 and 16. And had his best season as a pro in AAA last year, with a few minor changes to his swing and his approach. Caught up in late April. On a 2-2, he takes outside full count. Even when he was in Oakland struggling with the overall numbers, something that he was always good at was plate discipline, high walk rate. But he's added the pop into the equation since becoming a Dodger. Peterson at first, 1 out, 3-2. He walks. First of the day issued by deGrom.
A little surprised by those pitch selections there. Tried to go with the backdoor cutter or slider instead of the freedom fastball away. You can't, as a pitcher, be confused by your mistake being hit for a homer and the fact that you can make a better pitch. That was middle. And he never really went fastball away to Muncy in that at bat.
And now he faces Justin Turner, who reached on an error by Todd Frazier his first time. Flies the first pitch that he sees to right center field. Conforto and Bautista, and it's Bautista to lay out and catch it. A bit of a circuitous route to that ball, but he's able to get there for out number 2.
I'm telling you, Bautista was almost giving way that he thought Conforto was going to get to this ball, and this ball was coming closer and fading to Bautista. Watch his reaction right here. He's running, looking at him. Now he looks at him, and the ball finally comes back and makes a nice catch as the ball fades back towards Bautista. That is the third really good catch in 2 nights that the elder statesman, I guarantee he's telling him, like, I thought you had that one until I saw the gap between you and I. It's like, uh-oh.
I better catch it. And he did, and so it's Bellinger with 2 out. And a tie game in the 3rd. Strike 1.
I mean, you could put, that's the one thing about the approach to Bellinger that got exposed in the postseason. I really believe that they unlocked a secret. But now the key is, can pitchers of today keep getting it to that spot? Can they expose the spot, or do they make enough mistakes where the same type swing plane will allow these guys to run into mistakes and kind of hide the weaknesses, if you know what I mean, as far as the art of pitching?
Comes back inside.
And that's what I think is missing today. We're in stuff-oriented. We're infatuated with the stuff, but we have yet to be able to develop enough pitching to get the ball to the area where the hitter cannot hit it. And so guys who have one swing plane and have one thought and don't deviate at all, don't spread out, don't change their swing, you do not, as an elite pitcher, have to deviate at all. You just can go 3 straight pitches in that same area and they cannot do anything with it.
Ground went inside with a couple of pitches to start. He goes back in there and finishes him off. To the bottom of the 3rd we go. Tied at 1 in New York City on Baseball Night in America. Clayton Kershaw goes back to work here in the 3rd with a strike on Jacob deGrom. What are your early impressions of Kershaw through his first 2 innings back?
Yeah, he looks good. I mean, everything from the mechanic standpoint and on plane, only a couple pitches maybe thrown, but even the one that he gave up a hit on is fine. Look, pitching is so much about getting in your groove and knowing that you trust from the time you step on the mound till you get taken off, that you're healthy. You got to know you're healthy.
deGrom pulls a base hit to right to lead off the 3rd against Kershaw.
DeGrom and the Mets have an unusual scenario where the pitchers all bat opposite of their throwing arm. So in other words, left-handed, exposing their arm right there. There was a slow curveball that he was able to kind of keep his hands back even though his body wanted to go forward. And a shortstop by trade that's now one of the best pitchers in the National League, DeGrom out of Stetson. The Mad Hatters? Oh no.
Yeah, just the Hatters,
the Hatters,
I think.
right?
Yeah. It's a great name.
He's mad.
He is. That's strike one on Nimmo. And remember, DeGrom missed a start in early May because of a hyperextended right elbow that he hurt on his swing. So you haven't seen many aggressive swings from him over the last month. Snaps an 0 for 24 with that base hit against Kershaw. Who brings an 0-1. And Nimmo looks at strike two.
See, what's great about what Kershaw has been able to do over time is he doesn't need 96, 97, 98. He has deception. He uses his athleticism and the combination of pitches that has made him the best pitcher left-handed for a long time.
Strikes out Nimmo for the second time tonight. One encouraging thing for Kershaw has been, though, a little bit of uptick in that velocity tonight. He was struggling to reach 90 in his last start, which was his lone start over the last 2 months. He's been low 90s tonight.
Yeah, that's the best slider he threw. Power curveball. He's got the slower one. And the slider has really been, for Kershaw, the most dominant pitch in his career, along with that curveball.
1-on-1 out. Todd Frazier swings away, hits a soft bounce at a third. Turner can't get it with a bare hand, and they're at first and second with 1 out.
Do or die play by Turner. Nothing you can really do. Even if he comes up with it, I don't know if he can get him. Reach out, hit them where they're not, or hit them soft enough to where makes it difficult.
That's rolled a base hit. First one of the weekend for Frazier. And the Mets with an opportunity to take the lead here with the heart of the order coming up against Kershaw. Asdrubal Cabrera has a home run against Kershaw in his career. Swings and misses at a tight slider, strike one. Strike two.
If Clayton can get the outside corner like that, because he has the ability to come in over the middle of the plate and just spin that ball to the back foot of the hitter, it's just impossible for right-handers to lay off of it.
And when he's been at his very best over the years, he's been head and shoulders above most guys in his ability to pitch to both sides of the plate.
Yeah, and once you establish fastball on both sides of the plate, you bring in whatever slider you want to bring. Backdoor right there, he left over the middle. That'll come. That's the kind of stuff that'll come more second nature once you make a few starts. And that's what you kind of get the rust out of the way when you're making a rehab start, because your results don't matter in a rehab start in the minor leagues.
That's his first ball of this inning. 31 of 41 strikes for Kershaw tonight. Caleb Ferguson, who is the initial scheduled starter before Kershaw was put back into the rotation, getting loose. Dave Roberts would like to get him a clean inning. And the dirt, and it's 2-2. Two on, one out. 2-2. Good stop by Grandal, full count.
This is where the Mets have really struggled. They have not really done a good job with runners in scoring position. Obviously not scoring many runs at home. And if it isn't a homer, it's a single. There's not much in between, although you've seen a couple doubles tonight. The Mets have to find a way offensively. You see those numbers. That is just not going to cut it with the pitching staff that they've been able to throw out there.
A payoff and a ground ball foul. 3 runs per game at home.
And in the last 12 or 13, it's been worse than that. I mean, it's been, I hate to say, soccer-like scoring.
Appropriate.
Of the World Cup is going on as we speak.
This will be the 8th pitch from Kershaw to Cabrera. And a fly ball to right center field. Yasiel Puig is there for out number 2. Tied at 1 in the 3rd. We go down to Ken Rosenthal.
Well, the big question with Clayton Kershaw, bigger picture, is whether he will stay healthy enough to opt out of his contract and forfeit the remaining 2 years and $65 million on his contract and hit the open market. Now, if he's healthy, sure, he can beat $65 million easily, but he's been on the DL twice this season, 5 times in the last 5 years, and all but once because of a back injury. Remains to be seen what will happen with him and his future with the Dodgers.
Yeah, certainly a fascinating story moving through this season and into what is going to be a huge offseason across baseball as Wilmer Flores climbs in and takes a ball in the dirt. Coming into the year, it looked like kind of a foregone conclusion that he would opt out. Not that he would leave, but that he would opt out, perhaps stay with the Dodgers, perhaps go somewhere else. But another season where he's having to deal with injuries, and that's very much up in the air at this point, as Kenny touched on. That's the 1-0 fly, and Flores looks at ball 2.
Well, just in case this at bat strings on a little bit too long, or the inning, they've got Daniel Hudson warming up to get out of this inning if Clayton were not to make it a clean inning. A lot of pressure on DeGrom here with 2 strikes. The only benefit is, I mean, with 2 outs, the only benefit is he gets to go on the swing of the bat. It still plays at plate. You never want to have your pitcher involved.
2-1.
And I would say to right field that would cause a problem.
Yeah. Were you ever involved in a home plate collision as a runner?
Not a collision, but you know, sliding into the catcher or trying to slide around the catcher. In my mind, I was always prepared for it, but I don't know if my heart was ever going to allow me to do it.
'49th pitch of this return outing for Kershaw. It is a 2-1 to Wilmer Flores, and it's strike 2.
You know, interesting enough, Game 6 against Toronto in the World Series, I was pinch running. I was at third base. Otis Nixon was at the plate. Jimmy Williams said he's going to bunt. He can't hit Timlin. You have to beat the play at home. It's the most nervous I've ever been. But at that point, I was prepared in the World Series to take out the catcher if I had to.
Were you going to go left shoulder?
At that, it didn't matter.
It's just going to find a way.
It was just going to find a way, and then Timlin made the play at first, and the Blue Jays unfortunately went back-to-back. Or in the process of going back-to-back. They won in '92 and then in '93.
So the runners will be off and moving with this pitch. Tied at 1 in the 3rd. Kershaw home with his 3-2, and Flores hits a base hit to left past the diving Hernandez. Peterson's throw is cut off by Turner, and the Mets have taken a 2-1 lead.
with a high fastball and delivered it to left field. Looked like at the moment it could have been a close play at plate, but DeGrom easily scores. Got a good jump, but right here, even for a slight minute, it looked like DeGrom might have to sweat it out, but he's got long legs, good athletic pitcher on the mound.
Yeah, the Mets have their first lead of the series. Michael Conforto takes ball one high. Batting with men at the corners and 2 out. Doubleton scored the first Mets run last inning. And it has really started to heat up over the last week or two. Shoulder surgery ended last season, which was his best season. And then while he was recovering from that surgery, missed most of spring training. Didn't quite feel himself until about a month into the year. By then the numbers were poor enough where he was struggling with some confidence. Now he's feeling comfortable again and gaining confidence again.
There you see the numbers on last year with Jay Bruce, Conforto, Nimmo. That's why Cespedes is so important against left-handed pitching. The right-handed power and certainly the balance in the lineup. I mean, you just got to have him, and he hasn't been able to come back. He got close about 2 weeks ago, and we retweaked it. It's an amazing scenario if you're a Mets fan with a broken record of the injuries that keep coming every year, and the same type of injuries. It's not flukish injuries.
A curve gets Conforto to likely finish Clayton Kershaw's night with his 4th K. But the Mets have taken the lead on a 2-out hit from Wilmer Flores. After 3 innings and 55 pitches, he gives up 2 runs. Puig to start the 4th against Jacob deGrom, strike 1.
Well, you're never satisfied with being behind, but I think he's got to be satisfied with making pitches, going through everything you could want to go through in a big league level, and he threw a lot of strikes. So stuff to build on. I'm sure at this point he'll go to his bullpen session and try to improve and lengthen himself out.
Little dribbler off the end of the bat of Puig, and an easy play at first for Flores. Tonight's telecast is sponsored by Boost Mobile and by KFC's $5 fill-up with 2 pieces of extra crispy chicken. Try all 6 $5 fill-ups today. Dodgers return home after the finale here on Sunday. On Monday, hosting the Cubs to begin a 4-game series. Go to Dodgers.com to get tickets. Dodgers and Cubs play for the 2nd time in the last week plus. Yasmani Grandal looks at ball 1.
Cubs stubbed their toes so far against the Cincinnati Reds after taking the series against the Dodgers.
Yeah, 11-2 today. 3rd consecutive defeat to open that series in Cincinnati.
I mean, that was ownership too, what they have been able to do to Cincinnati, especially Bryant in that park. Rename it.
2-0. And it's ball 3. Bryant's been going through a bit of a slump himself the last few weeks. Cubs still chasing the Milwaukee Brewers in the Central. That's a strike. 3-1.
Yeah, St. Louis, a much needed win at this point. They beat them 3-2 in the standings there. Of course, Milwaukee trying to learn from last year. What I mean by that is they had a 6-game lead at the All-Star break and really did nothing. No moves. Ended up losing by 9 to the Cubs and then losing late to the wild card. Ran out of gas, didn't have enough starters.
Grandal hits a bullet to right for a 1-out hit. Do you think Milwaukee is a move away from being legitimate favorite in that division long term?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, they really are. They've developed a dynamic bullpen, and their offense can play against anybody, but they have to have depth in that rotation. Of course, losing Nelson to an injury was really a part of that issue, but it's time for them to, at least at the All-Star break or after, go get a starter and give that team a better chance to lock down a real good division between St. Louis and Chicago.
It's ball 1 on Kike Hernandez. Let's go down to Ken Rosenthal.
It's interesting about Milwaukee, John. They don't just need a starting pitcher. They've got questions at shortstop. Brought Brad Miller up today. You remember him from Tampa Bay and Seattle. He's going to be their shortstop for now. That's also a position they could address, and maybe even second base and maybe even a reliever. But I do expect them to be active because, as you said, they learned a lesson last season.
2 balls, no strikes on Hernandez. Cubs, meanwhile, it's looking like could use a starting pitcher themselves. Coming into the year, they thought that'd be a huge strength.
I'm always intrigued with organizations that have a timeline, right? And a time frame of when you think you're going to be relative, competitive, whatever. And sometimes you exceed that. Sometimes you get in a position you may never get in again with the likes of, well, let's just say what the Braves are doing. Everyone looked at next year being the year, even with Philadelphia. Now all of a sudden Philadelphia and Atlanta are playing at a rate and a lot better than anyone could imagine. And Washington's looking up at them. So you never know.
Hernandez lays off, and it's 3-1. You think Atlanta is for real already?
I think they are for real, but I don't know if they can sustain this if they don't decide that they are going to go for certain things that might be in the offseason for next year. Like, it's great to have a farm system. It's great to have prospects, but the reality of all your prospects playing for you in that team are not as great as people think. So in other words, when you lose some to gain a piece, it's okay. You know, as good as their pitching is in the minor leagues with the prospects they have, you're not going to get all of them to pitch for you. So I know those are tough decisions to make for general managers. That's why they pay them the big bucks, I guess. The timing of it and when you do it.
Runner takes off on ball 4, and the Dodgers have him at first and second with 1 out. On DeGrom's second walk of the night.
He wasn't real happy and let the umpire know about that was a strike. And DeGrom usually doesn't say too many things, so you got to believe he feels strongly about the pitch before. I don't know if it was that pitch that he was looking at, but I got to admit, our angle's never a good angle, right? When you're on the mound, your head's in a different way. When you release the ball, you're not looking at it like you would a TV screen, and we all fall victim to that. I did many times. And the good news about pitchers in the National League, that when you go to the plate after you've seen the video, you can go, my bad, I'm sorry, don't pay attention to me, keep calling a good game.
Or the other way. Hey, it's a strike, man. 2 on with 1 out. Chase Utley hit in. Chris Taylor has stepped into the on-deck circle in Kershaw's spot. DeGrom's first one. Utley takes it high. It's a wonder that Jacob DeGrom hasn't shown more negative emotion this year with how many things have gone against him.
Yeah, you're exactly right with that, and it's impressive to see, at least from here, but you got to know inside he's got to go to a place where he just goes, what else could happen? What do I have to do? But what's interesting in talking to Mickey is that his team really does have more of an upbeat feeling than you think they would. Like, you would think this is all like, oh my gosh, here we go, feel sorry for me type mode. But he said they're handling it the right way. They're undermanned. You're never going to come out and say that, but they're undermanned. They need their pieces. And until they get their pieces, until they get their full complement of people doing what they're supposed to be doing, they still feel like they can make a run, even at 11.5 back.
Utley pops it off of the hands, and at third, Frazier's got it with the infield fly rule in effect, 2 out.
And it's hard to believe when someone says that, but in reality, if they can get the pitching, the improved pitching of Wheeler, and obviously maybe not the historic rate that DeGrom's going, but get a healthy Syndergaard back in there and Steven Matz, on paper, he's right. They got to find ways to score some runs. But their pitching staff, and that may be the one thing that Sandy Alderson holds on to, knowing that next year they could return back to a healthier version of themselves and actually win. But most people are going to see this season as, we're going nowhere. Why not make a franchise move? Why not change our franchise, get us younger again, and get us some prospects we can rally around?
And if they're going to make a push this year, which, like you talked about, Mickey Callaway said he's still holding out hope for. Sandy Alderson said the same thing yesterday. They can't wait around any longer. With the deficit already at 11.5 in July approaching. Chris Taylor swings and misses, strike 1.
Yeah, the All-Star game for me is going to be the defining moment of whether they feel like they have a chance or not. That gives them the most leverage to be able to sell their components at the highest value. Right now, this is the highest value you're ever going to get. The man on the mound, whether they ever entertain it or not, you're not going to get any higher value for a game-changing stud like him.
0-2. How close do they got to get by the All-Star break for them to consider hanging on to everybody?
Oh, it would have to be 7 games or less. Because really, the reality is, look, the teams in front of them, Atlanta and Philly, are in a better position long-term than the New York Mets are. And that was not going to be the case when this season started. They were going to have a chance to compete for the postseason, in my mind.
0-2. Ball 1.
And so now Nationals, everyone knew this was their division to win. Their window's getting smaller based on the capacity to either re-sign Bryce Harper or, you know, the window that they have with the salary structures they have. So that you never want to be in neutral. I get it. The Mets are feeling closer to being in neutral instead of the promise of 2-3 years, the window of their pitching.
On a 1-2 pitch, Taylor takes it low, and the count evens out. DeGrom trying to pitch out of a bit of a jam here in the second, and was real close with this one.
Interesting. Went with the changeup after some pretty good breaking balls. Slow him down, speed him up. Slow him down, speed him up.
Now back home 2-2. Taylor bangs one to right center field, base hit. That gets all the way to the wall, and a pinch hit 2-run double for Chris Taylor puts the Dodgers in front of the 4th.
Well, he went with the fastball, and Taylor just better hitting on the outside part, outer third. He went with it instead of trying to lift and pull. DeGrom not happy with 2 outs. Kershaw, of course, knowing nothing bad can happen now. Can't add a loss.
And Taylor, who's been nursing that sore hamstring, taken out. Ross Stripling pinch runs for him. The Dodgers have recaptured the lead with a 2-out, 2-run double from Taylor. Third time through the order now. Jock Peterson with 2 gone. Strike 1.
Well, it's been an aggressive approach by the Dodgers on fastballs, and for the secondary pitches for DeGrom hasn't been on point. He's got underneath a few pitches tonight. Coming into this game, 129 batting average with runners in scoring position, and the Dodgers with a big 2-out hit gets them the lead again.
And he had been even better once it got to 2 out. Prior to that double from Taylor, opponents were 2 for 33 with runners in scoring position and 2 out against DeGrom. There's 1-1 to Peterson. Taken away, 2 balls and a strike.
And what happens, even as good as this fastball is, if you don't hit enough on secondary pitches, you're off speed, it really kind of makes the Dodgers kind of keyhole a couple locations over the plate that they can trust. Even if it's a fastball, let it go and make contact. When you hit with your curveball or your changeup, then it puts the hitter in a complete different spot, knowing that 98 is looming.
Caleb Ferguson ready to go for the bottom of the 4th. Kershaw's watched the Dodgers take the lead right back here in the 4th inning. Stripling running for Taylor at second. DeGrom pitching 2-2 and Peterson leaving it up. It's the first time that Jacob DeGrom has given up 3 earned runs in an outing since mid-April. But nobody better in baseball this year with a 151 earned run average coming in. First year pitching coach Dave Island. Peterson takes the walk, 3rd of the day issued by DeGrom.
And this is a good meeting on the mound for Island to come out. Frustration. You knew it's inevitable. You can't pitch perfect your entire first half or the entire year. And he's just been underneath enough fastballs. And he's still probably frustrated with some of the calls he's not getting from home plate umpire.
Well, World Cup action continues tomorrow. Full slate of matches highlighted by England and Panama at 7 p.m. Eastern on FS1. You can also stream it all live on the Fox Sports app. Mexico another win today. They're off to a 2-0 start as they took down South Korea. And Germany came from behind to beat Sweden. That's actually 7 a.m. tomorrow. Bright and early. And a Team Mexico fan. First and second with 2 gone, and it's Max Muncy. Homered on the first pitch that he saw from DeGrom and then walked. His 14th home run of the year. He's in the top 5 in the National League in on-base plus slugging. One and one.
Well, 30 pitches is never good in an inning for a starting pitcher. And so you start burning. You start burning your chances of obviously going deeper in the game and really stressing out from 30 on up. You start approaching north of 35 to 40, and not going to last much longer.
He's gone at least 7 full innings in 7 consecutive starts. Tonight facing a lineup that chases less than any other in baseball. Has a tendency to really make pitchers work. And he's nearing the 80 pitch mark here in the 4th. On a 2-1 pitch, Muncy. It's a dribbler foul, and it's 2-2. It's only the 3rd time this year, in fact, that Jacob deGrom has had to throw this many pitches in 1 inning. Muncy grounds one with 3 defenders over there. Rosario's got it, and the inning is over. But the Dodgers retake the lead on a pinch hit double from Chris Taylor. And the manager of the Dodgers, Dave Roberts, joins us. Dave, what did you think of Clayton Kershaw's first start back?
I thought very positive, Joe. I think that the ball came out well. Thought he had a good feel for the fastball, arm side, glove side. Curveball was good. Left one up to deGrom right there, 0-2. And Bautista took a good swing on a slider down and in. But outside that, I mean, I think it was very positive. Go 3 innings and get up to about 55 pitches.
Max Muncy hits his 14th home run of the season. First pitch he sees from Jacob deGrom, just where you had him at the end of June, right? 14 home runs.
That's what we planned. You know, he saw that first heater, got on the gas, and put a good swing on it. And, you know, deGrom's still a tough customer. We still got a lot of work to do.
Appreciate the time, Dave.
All right, guys.
Jose Bautista leading off this 4th and taking ball 1 from Ferguson, who was the initial scheduled starter for tonight before Kershaw's plans changed. The 21-year-old left-hander back home with a 1-0. That's strike 1.
It's amazing how, I mean, they have the resources to do it, but yesterday Alex Wood, and then they follow him with Alexander, 2 lefties. Lefties have given the Mets fits. And then you got Clayton Kershaw making his rehab or first start back, and they follow it with another lefty.
And Rich Hill tomorrow. 2-2. Full count on Bautista. 6, 7, and 8 in this inning for the Mets. Mesoraco and Rosario to follow.
See that pitch right there? I mean, this is a youngster, so I don't know if he'll read into it, but a 3-2 fastball for a ball tells me Bautista wants to swing. So you don't have to throw a fastball here, and you would get a swing if you're a veteran pitcher.
Sticks with a fastball and misses just off of the plate. Leadoff walk for Bautista. Time for a game break. We say hello to Mike Hill. Boy, you knew it was only a matter of time before Paul Goldschmidt got right, didn't you?
Yeah. It's never as bad as it can be, and it's never as great as it's going to be. And he's just always been right there. Just Mr. Consistent. Look at the back of his card and just pencil in certain numbers.
1-0 on Mesoraco. And as he's gone right, so have the Diamondbacks, who went into a bad slide in May and allowed the Dodgers to hang around while they were struggling. They've been the two hottest teams in the National League here in June. Dodgers 13-5 this month. Arizona's now 15-6, and the lead in the division is 3. Starting to get some separation. San Francisco and Colorado have been among the leaders all season in a very crowded National League West for the first few months. Inside corner, strike 2.
Yeah, I think what Arizona did last year and experience they had, I think prepares them for this season a little bit more, going up against the Dodgers year long.
Curveball tap back to Ferguson, who looked at second, went to first for the first out of the inning. And the Dodgers started this season 16-26, 10 games below 500, but some unlikely sources carrying that. Matt Kemp, who's an all-star candidate. Ross Stripling from the bullpen into the rotation. He's got a sub-2 ERA. Kenley Jansen had a rough start to the year, but he's converted 17 saves in a row. And since that 16-26 start, Smoltz 23-9 to lead the National League.
When was it they went on the historic 52 and whatever, or 50?
Yeah.
I mean, they obviously got it in them. Injuries and starting rotation. When you don't have that continuity in the starting rotation, you're asking guys to do things they're not familiar with. I mean, you can patch it together for a while, but you need your boys, your horses, to be on the mound. And then all of a sudden, everyone who predicted the Dodgers to win the West would probably feel a lot better about it when they're healthy.
Ahmed Rosario falls behind 0-2 on a curve. Obviously without Kershaw for a good chunk of the year. Hyun-Jin Ryu had been pitching very well in the rotation. He went down with a groin injury. Kenta Maeda just came back. Rich Hill just came back. So the only starter from the season opening rotation for the Dodgers that has remained in the rotation all year is Alex Wood. And even he's not been himself much of the year. Rosario down quickly, 2 out. Walker Buehler, who is putting up a good case for National League Rookie of the Year. He's currently on the disabled list. They expect him back before too long. As DeGrom bats with 2 out in a 3-2 game in the 4th. One ball, no strikes. Singleton scored in the 3rd inning. Snapped an 0 for 24 slide with that base hit against Kershaw. Swings and misses on this fastball.
You know he'd love to do nothing more than help his own cause here and find a way to get a hit to tie the game up. That was a swing to try and take the lead.
Ferguson following Kershaw and opening his night with a scoreless 4th. On to the 5th we go in New York. Remarkably has kept his composure much of the way, but we saw him frustrated after last inning.
Yeah, that was the pitch that he was really talking about more than the pitch that ended up being a walk. And of course, you can understand this. I mean, really, the guy has been on top of his game. It's been a little bit of a struggle. The Dodgers have contributed to that because they've not overswung and chasing a lot of pitches.
Starts Justin Turner with a strike. Turner's 0 for 2, and against DeGrom lifetime 0 for 15 now. An 0-1 pitch. This one off of the hand, strike 2.
Yeah, Turner, you know, just coming back from the injury, of course, not quite locked in. His fastball average, meaning his batting average against fastballs, is really not even close to what his career numbers are. He's been taking advantage of off speed, but right now pitchers are beating him to the barrel on fastballs.
And he's admitted that he figures that the wrist injury, the hand injury, is something that's going to linger for him for much of the season, that he's going to just have to play through and do his best to take care of. At the end of spring training, got hit by a fastball on that left hand. Down the right field line, Bautista watches it sail into the seats. You go to Mets.com to get tickets to upcoming Mets games. Wrap up this homestand with the Dodgers tomorrow. Jason Vargas for the Mets. Rich Hill for the Dodgers. Justin Turner starting the 5th. And lifting a ball the other way that is playable for Bautista in the first out of the inning. Cody Bellinger coming to the plate in the 3-2 game, and we go down to Ken Rosenthal.
Well, Joe, Bellinger has been tinkering with his hand position all season. You look on the left, that's what he was last year, unanimous choice for National League Rookie of the Year. Earlier this month, though, he lowered his hands and basically just wanted to get the feel back. Now, here he is last night. Earlier this week, he went back to the higher hand position, and what he told me yesterday is that the whole procedure, the adjustment, the readjustment, it was kind of a wake-up call to his muscle memory, a reminder of how he was supposed to feel.
So far tonight, Kenny's 0 for 2 against DeGrom with a pair of strikeouts. And here he's ahead 2-0.
Yeah, and again, I'm not big in what happens at the end of the year and does it bleed over into the beginning of the year, but I think in this case it did. What I mean by that is Jock Peterson had a really good postseason. Unexpectedly, some big at-bats, didn't swing wild, and his success, I think, changed the mindset of his year this year, and he's having a very good year, walking, hitting with average, whereas Bellinger went the opposite way. Historic year, bad ending to the point where he had no clue on where the baseball was, where his mechanics was, and sometimes that can, open up a door to the rest of the pitching.
Inside corner, full count.
It's a game of adjustments, and that's what makes it so great. And throw out Mike Trout because it never looks like he's ever adjusted to anything. But you have to adjust in this game.
Bellinger hits a high fly ball to deep center field. Conforto's back at the track to have a chance at it, only to see it deflect off his glove. Bellinger winds up at third. Conforto got to the spot but couldn't haul it in. It is ruled a triple for Cody Bellinger.
And in a snapshot, this is how it's been going for the Mets. Gets to the ball, a play he's normally going to make. He's trying to prepare for the brace of hitting the wall. It's the deepest part of the ballpark, and one that he'd probably tell you he's got to make.
Isn't it a funny game? We see him lay out last night and make one of the best catches you will ever see, and the one that he gets to tonight clinks off the palm of his glove.
Well, now they'll bring the infield in against Puig. And interesting enough, DeGrom will go out of the windup, which is not a good recipe for the runner at third to get an aggressive lead. Typically, when you have the infield in, you want your pitcher out of the stretch, which limits the lead that the runner at third, but DeGrom's going to go out of the windup.
Came inside and missed with the first one to Puig. Comes inside again, and it's fouled off. 1-1. You got a chunk of Devin Mesoraco.
This is the worst part for a catcher. You cannot predict this. It just barely gets it and hits it in the absolute place. Anything that is not covered up by the catcher, that's why that position is, man, I credit those guys for doing it.
Part of why you see so many streaky hitters as catchers too. Those guys go through so many nagging injuries. Continue to play through them in a lot of cases. The man at third and 1 out. Puig swings and misses. DeGrom could really use a strikeout here, and he's got him at 1-2. Got it. 2 out.
Well, pound him in, and he throws enough of a breaking ball off the plate. Foul tip. Now DeGrom 1 out away from completing the 5th without any damage.
Now Yasmani Grandal takes ball 1. These have been some spots where the Dodgers have struggled. They've been very reliant on the home run here in June. Struggling with runners in scoring position lately. 1 ball and 1 strike.
You know, I don't mind the philosophy that's in the game today. Hunt hard early, meaning big swings up into 2 strikes. But you don't see a lot of guys deviate after that with 2 strikes. And I think even for Dave Roberts, it's a concern. He'd like to cut down that strikeout rate. You know, everyone's trying to do one thing of lift the baseball and hit it a country mile, but with 2 strikes, and especially let's just say with a runner on third and less than 2 outs, you've got to find a way to put the ball in play, even if you don't get a hit, even if you don't get the runner in.
Pop flies short right. Cabrera says that he's got it and does, and despite the 1-out triple, Jacob deGrom able to pitch out of it with no damage done. Here in New York, inside the Empire State Building, we're halfway home in a 3-2 game. This is sponsored by the Lincoln Motor Company. In New York, 3-2. We look at our Budweiser game summary. Max Muncy with a home run on the first pitch that he saw from Jacob deGrom. Clayton Kershaw, his return from the disabled list, gives up 2 over his 3 innings, and Caleb Ferguson has taken over. Pitch to scoreless 4th and misses with his first pitch of the 5th to Brandon Nimmo. Struck out in both of his at-bats tonight against Kershaw. Here he yanks one in the air to center that Bellinger has to play on a bounce. Nimmo accelerating and throwing on the brakes with a leadoff single.
Tell you what, I give a lot of credit to Bellinger and his ability to play in a couple positions. He looked like he played center field his whole life right there. Obviously this ball has a late dive to it, and right there, maybe if Bellinger doesn't react quick enough, Nimmo goes to second. But see how quickly that ball's diving, and his first baseman instincts kind of took over there.
Playing a lot of center field lately because they want Max Muncy in the lineup, and he's been at first. Todd Frazier's up there, and he takes ball 1 from Ferguson. First year with the Mets for Frazier. That 2-year $17 million deal signed this offseason. Just almost a month with his first disabled list stint as a big leaguer.
See?
Yeah.
Even happened to him coming over here, and the injury bug just that bites this organization. Now I said the irony would be Mesoraco comes over here and doesn't get hurt. Because he's been hurt most of his time with Cincinnati, and they make the trade for Harvey, and of course David Wright feel sorry for his injury.
Kind of the face of that whole issue for the Mets in recent years. It's foul, and it's 1-2. They have 19 players on the disabled list this season. Tied for the most in baseball. And nobody's been safe from it. Syndergaard, who a year ago made just 7 starts because of the lat injury, hasn't pitched in a month because of a strained ligament in his finger. And the biggest one, as we touched on, Yoenis Cespedes. Frazier takes in the dirt, 2-2. It's just a completely different lineup, regardless of how healthy Cespedes is, just with his presence in it.
Yeah, and I know that last year didn't show much of what they were able to do with or without him, but this year it's a big difference without him.
Here comes the 2-2. Frazier pulls it sharply into left center for a base hit. Nimmo read it well and races into third. Back-to-back hits to open the 5th, and the Mets have Ferguson in the Dodgers' corner.
This ball was hit really hard and gets by Hernandez. Catches too much of the middle, and because of how hard it was, that ball gets back. And Nimmo, of course, once he sees the play in front of him, easily knows he can get to third. Frazier would love to see a crooked number for the Mets. They haven't seen many of them. Not many crooked numbers in one particular inning, especially here at home in the last 2 weeks or so.
Part of the order coming up as Struble Cabrera, who has been hot lately, but 0 for 2 tonight. They got a generous strike there. Cabrera drops his bat in disgust with Ed Hickox.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is a big curveball, but look where he catches it, and Cabrera's like, man.
Back-to-back curves got him swinging with this one.
So now whatever it takes, this is when you're going bad. I mean, even if you hit into a double play, you tie the game up. But at some point you got to tie the game up before you can take the lead. And this is the one part of baseball that has been a lost art, and the ability to score when they, again, the defense is giving you a run if you hit the ball to the middle part of the field.
And the Mets aren't alone in that problem.
Right.
It's across the sport.
I want so bad to test a philosophy that he obviously can never do, because I'm not positioned to give a hitter a bonus. But I would love to test and just say to any individual hitter, you get $1 million bonus the entire year if you never strike out with runners on. And by the way, you never have to get a hit. Never have to get a hit. But you just can't strike out. And in my mind, I can't physically think how someone couldn't do that.
Wow.
Right? And I've talked to hitters, and some of them have said, no, couldn't do it. I'm like, what do you mean you couldn't do it if you take hit out of the equation, even if you hit it back to the pitcher? My point is, nothing good happens when you strike out. Something bad can happen when you hit the ball in play. The team can make an error. They could fumble it. But I'm shocked at how many hitters would say, no, I don't think I can do that.
A whole year is a long time to not strike out once.
Correct.
With
But
runners on.
how many times are you actually coming up with runners on, right? So that limits it to half or third or quarter. But the reason I think guys make themselves strike out is they're always trying to get a hit. Now I'm taking the hit out of the equation.
Payoff.
Because to my point, then you're not having these swings to try to get it over the fence. You're actually having the proper swing for what it calls for. And what it calls for today just doesn't matter. I call them now, since doing this and watching games and broadcasting, I've never realized how many selfish at-bats exist in the game. Flat out selfish at-bats. Only for me, not for the team.
Cabrera down on strikes, one away in the 5th. No $1 million bonus for Asdrubal Cabrera this year.
Well, now you're a double play away from getting out of the inning. Certainly as a pitcher, that's your dream.
An inning that started with back-to-back hits from Nimmo and Frazier now has Wilmer Flores coming up. Inside, ball 1. Last 4 ABs for the Mets with runners in scoring position have all finished with strikeouts. They trail at 3-2 in the 5th as Flores takes strike 1.
I mean, it would be like in other sports. They're playing cover 2 or they're playing deep. They're letting you throw the ball underneath, but you keep trying to hit the home run, throwing it down the field. You can't do it. You got to take what they give you.
A pop up and foul grounded first. Muncy and Grandal over to give it a look, but it's out of play. And now he's a strike away from putting himself on the doorstep of getting out of this jam. That was 1st and 3rd, nobody out. Robert Gesellman has started to loosen in the Mets bullpen. Much earlier than we've seen action on a Jacob deGrom start in a while. A 1-2 and back-to-back strikeouts for Caleb Ferguson with runners at 1st and 3rd and nobody out. That's against the heart of the order.
What I've been seeing all year. And the Mets aren't the only team, but that is just, that's an approach that you wonder what the goal is. Now we got no shortstop and an opportunity to tie the game, but more than likely the numbers say you'll pull it.
Starts him with a curve and it's in for a strike. Now Michael Conforto. Double and a strikeout tonight for the 25-year-old in his 4th major league season. Runner takes off, tries to get hung up. Grandal doesn't bite, and Frazier takes 2nd. Doing anything they can to generate a run. Oh, 2. Slap foul. Now the Mets in their last 13 home games, 4 for 62 with runners in scoring position.
And I would love to know how many times if they made contact the runner would score. Right? You don't even have to have a high average. And that's this deceiving stat for me, because your 250 could be way more productive than 350 in some cases by just putting the ball in play and scoring the run. Now, if every runner's in scoring position was a man on 2nd, and 2 outs, well, then the average means a little more.
Ferguson with another 0-2, and Conforto stays alive. So maybe strikeout rate is a better category to look at long term in those situations.
21 of them. 24. No, 62 were strikeouts. That's what we just got.
24 of the 62 ABs with runners in scoring position last couple weeks of home games. Wow. Strikeouts. 0-2. Tap gently along first. Muncy's got it. He'll tag Conforto and put an end to this 5th inning. A missed opportunity for the Mets and a 3-2 lead for the Dodgers. So 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. And by Wells Fargo, established 1852, reestablished 2018. Dodgers 3, Mets 2 to the 6th inning. And Jacob deGrom, having already reached 100 pitches, bounces one, and it's 1-1 on Kike Hernandez. So the Mets with a huge missed opportunity in the bottom of the 5th. They had 1st and 3rd, nobody out, and couldn't get the tying run in.
Well, the other thing that goes unnoticed a little bit is your starts after you pitch in Colorado. And he survived Colorado. I mean, he only gave up 2 runs, and it was their only win. But there are effects and after effects of pitching in Colorado and then coming to make your next start that are real. And I'm not trying to give him an excuse for this start, but when you've been locked in all year, and then you try to go pitch in Colorado and your exertion and everything about it, you know, you can feel a little bit difficult trying to come back and make that next start.
8 innings in that game, got his first win in a month. Hernandez tries to lay off, fouls it off, and it's still 2-2. Got some run support finally in that game. That's 1-12-2. Kike Hernandez starting the 6th and working it full.
I know from experience in what was my magical year that ended up being my Cy Young year, I gave up 9 runs, I think, late August in Colorado.
Wow.
And had to grind like you know what to get my ERA under 3 for September.
Fly ball to left field for Brandon Nimmo. Yeah, that can skew a line out of contention for Cy Young.
I'm telling you, it was not a lot of fun.
3-2 game, 6th inning. Jacob deGrom ready to face Chase Utley. So you give up 9 runs in 1 outing and still.
Yeah, I lost that game,
Yeah.
and it felt like, oh my gosh. And yeah, Colorado is a whole different world for a visitor. You get used to it, I'm sure, if you're there all the time.
Right.
But, boy, I like watching a game there. I certainly don't like pitching a game there.
It's a different world. Ball one on Chase Utley.
You know what you find is you do everything at the effort level at sea level, and it's so different at elevation. Your heart rate, everything about it. You just struggle to make the ball move.
High fly ball to center field off of the bat of Utley that Conforto settles under. 2 out. Speaking of Colorado, though, I hope you've got it figured out as far as the thin air goes, because the U.S. Senior Open is coming up. I hear that's in Colorado, and I hear you're playing in it.
Colorado Springs. Won't be wearing shorts, I know that, even though it's going to be hot.
Yeah.
And the golf ball is going to stay in the air a long time, so got to get used to that. Got to get used to the whole elements of yardage, what you typically hit a ball, and where the ball and how it will travel out at, I think, about 6,300 feet above sea level.
Okay. So this stripped Colorado, you're a hitter and not a pitcher, and thank goodness, right?
Thank goodness is right. Now it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's been a whirlwind 3 weeks leading up to it. I've tried really hard to think about baseball as much as I could.
Yeah. Not easy, I can imagine. Ferguson looks at strike 3 to the bottom of the 6th. Open and exclusively online, and you can vote for your favorite players at MLB.com/vote and catch all the excitement of the 89th All-Star Game presented by MasterCard July 17th on Fox and ESPN Radio. The Dodgers have a starter by voting currently with Matt Kemp in the outfield. Who would have seen that coming into the year when he was acquired really in a salary exchange? Adrian Gonzalez going to the Braves, a couple of other guys as well. Gonzalez wound up here. Yeah, and then was released recently. Matt Kemp putting together a huge season in his return to Los Angeles. Jose Bautista starts the 6th, takes ball 1 from Caleb Ferguson.
I think Bautista would be looking to unload on a fastball. Any fastball he sees. He's got a changeup. Recognizing it. Starts off curveball, changeup.
And now on 1-1. Back to a change, ball 2. Bautista quietly is putting together a really nice run for the Mets. Tonight an RBI double and a walk. On base percentage above 600 over a 9-game on base streak. Got a fastball and fouled it back.
Knows it too. He missed it.
In a 1-run game, he starts the 6th. Had another fastball, missed it again, short right. Muncy out, Puig on to make a running catch. And Muncy bailing out of the way with that freight train coming. And 1 gone. Caleb Ferguson has worked 2 1/3 scoreless innings in relief of Clayton Kershaw so far tonight. For more on the 21-year-old rookie, here's Ken.
Joe, Caleb Ferguson was committed to West Virginia when he learned during his senior year of high school that he would need Tommy John surgery. He and his father Patrick drove 3.5 hours from their home in Ohio to tell the coach at West Virginia face to face, and the coach said, you know what, could you maybe go someplace else for a year so we can give your scholarship money to somebody else? Needless to say, Caleb and his dad were flabbergasted. So he has the Tommy John 2 days after his high school graduation. The Dodgers draft him in the 38th round. He signs with the Dodgers for $100,000, and he now projects as a mid-rotation starter.
And he's in the majors way faster than anybody had imagined. In his major league debut in Pittsburgh a few weeks back. He brings a 1-1 to Mesoraco, who hits a high fly ball to center field for Cody Bellinger. 2 up, 2 down.
He could learn a lot from watching Rich Hill. High fastball, good curveball combination. Looks like Ferguson knows how to spin a breaking ball, and he's got good touch on his changeup. So not an easy act to follow Clayton Kershaw in one of your games that you're scheduled to pitch, but nonetheless, he's done a nice job.
I mean, this is a guy who had thrown a total of 47 innings above A ball before making his major league debut. 2 out in the 6th inning. The 8-hitter Rosario takes strike 1. Jacob deGrom, on the other hand, is 112 pitches into his outing, and Jose Reyes is in his spot in the on-deck circle. Quickly 0-2. Rosario tonight is 0 for 2 with a bounce out and a strikeout. Selman continues to loosen. 1-2. It's the line right now for most guys. That'd be an okay night, but the bar that he's set this season, so we're starting a couple months. '21-year-old against 22-year-old. Ahmed Rosario on 1-2. Taps a curve foul. Debuted last August. Former top prospect for this Mets organization. And really the most anticipated debut for a shortstop since the guy on deck made his debut about a decade and a half ago here.
Jose Reyes.
Ferguson with a 1-2-3-6, striking out Rosario and sending us to the late innings in New York. out. And Robert Gesellman, who's a converted starter, on. A really good run going prior to his last outing when he gave up a 3-run home run in Coors Field. And he's in as part of a double switch with Jose Reyes checking in at shortstop. And due to lead off the bottom of this inning. Jock Peterson, strike one.
Selman, good late action, good breaking ball. Now a valuable piece of the bullpen. The bullpen that really has not lived up to the expectations, some injuries, lack of performance, especially in the games DeGrom pitches. I mean, think about that. He's been pitching lights out most of the year, and I think the bullpen ERA in his games 8.06. There you have it.
Oh, 2. Peterson flips it foul.
I mean, I've been on teams where stuff like that happens to a particular pitcher, and the manager will go, look, all right, I'm not going to pitch him in your games anymore, because obviously it starts building. Every player knows it. It's like, man, don't think the offense doesn't want to tighten up DeGrom and get him runs, and the bullpen doesn't want to hold the leads. It becomes a bigger issue than just any individual game. It becomes about that person.
And you're right. It really is both sides of it. You got the bullpen after he leaves blowing it, and you have the offense while he's in not providing anything consistently.
Yeah, first and third, nobody out. 3 strikeouts.
On a 1-2. Peterson takes ball 2. Well, when he's gotten the decision, 5-2, but when he's left it up to the bullpen, almost no shot. Peterson pops it into center field for Michael Conforto. Mickey Callaway kind enough to wear the microphone for us tonight. Let's listen in.
There you go, buddy. Have fun. Thanks for coming. Come on, fellas, get on him early. Let's go. I want to get around the bases. That boy swinging. Nez gets beat up, doesn't he? Jeez. I bet Max Muncy was scared to death right there. Pig was coming in hot, too.
And here's Muncy with 1 out, taking a strike. Wouldn't you be scared? Gosh.
Yeah, that is, freight train's a good word.
Well, Mickey Callaway going through all the experiences here in his first year as a major league manager. It's a ground ball to first. Flores to the bag, 2 out. When they get off to that 11-1 start, that'd be living large, big city, big star, new manager. Everything's going right, but he's experienced the other end of that spectrum since then.
Yeah, relatively quick too. You really don't see a team have that kind of start and then flip it around so quickly. And I think, you know, spring training they struggled. They came out of the gate, won a lot of games, came back. That 11-1 mark should have bought them more time. You know, like that disappeared quick. It's amazing. And they've had one of the worst records since. There it is, 20-41.
You know, it's the fastest in Major League history. A team has gone from 10 games over to 10 games under. Turner with a lazy pop up, short right. Cabrera finishing a 1-2-3-7 for Robert Gesellman on only 10 pitches. is sponsored by 5-Hour Energy. Get back to 100%. And by AT&T Business. We're in New York for the bottom of the 7th inning, where the Dodgers have a 3-2 lead as they try to beat the Mets for the 11th straight time, dating back 2 seasons. Philip Ferguson in for his 4th inning of work, and he starts Jose Reyes with a curve for a strike. Reyes in a double switch last inning, and has been good lately. On base percentage above 500 in his last 8 games. Flips this one to short, where Kike Hernandez calls it out and puts it away. 1 gone. Now Ferguson is on for Kershaw, and he's the subject of our Gatorade proven performance. What'd you think in his first start off of the DL tonight?
I thought it was very well done, in the sense that he experienced everything you would want to experience in a short period of time. You can't do that at AAA, meaning the adrenaline rush, all the things you're used to, AAA, AA, rehab. It's important, but he accomplished all his goals, I think, and stuff to work on.
Brandon Nimmo yanks a first pitch curve to center. Bellinger can't get it. Lost that one, and it gets to the wall. Nimmo's headed for third, and the Mets have the tying run 90 feet away.
I'm telling you, that ball changed directions. Between it getting caught, this ball knuckles, and see how it just disappears. Watch it the last minute. He's got it, he's got it. Watch it change directions. And it happens from time to time, and I promise you, this was not anything he could do anything about, not being out there a lot. It's the way he squared it up. That ball turned away from Bellinger. And again, the Mets are in position with contact to tie the game up possibly. He's got it right here, and then watch that ball just completely change directions. Shocks him, and Puig does a great job backing him up.
Now with the way Nimmo runs, he doesn't do that. This game is tied, even without production from Frazier. Infield comes in with 1 gone. Frazier takes ball 1. And if anybody you think is capable of putting a ball in play in this situation, maybe it's the veteran Todd Frazier.
Yeah, he knows exactly what he's trying to do. He's looking for 1 pitch to lift. He wants to hit a fly ball. The infield's in. And as quick and as good as Nimmo is, you don't want the ground ball here.
At the knees, strike 1. Frazier 2 for 3 tonight with a pair of singles. The Mets are hitless in 6 tries with runners in scoring position. As you've touched on, it doesn't take a hit necessarily. Nimmo at third, 1 out. Frazier looks at strike 2.
I got to believe they're going to go on contact regardless. So good secondary lead, and as soon as the ball hits the ground, force the action.
1-2. He struck him out on a fastball down Broadway.
It's unbelievable, and great pitching selection by the Dodgers. I'm sure that they were looking off speed there, and he couldn't pull the trigger, and this is becoming like a broken record here.
Bigger deal than the offer is that in 5 of the last 6 chances with runners in scoring position, the Mets have struck out. And it falls on Cabrera, who was guilty of that his last time. He smacks a 1-hopper to second that Chase Utley picks up and throws him out. And the beat goes on for the Mets, leaving a man at third. Ferguson of the Dodgers stay in front 3-2. Part of the Dodgers order in a 3-2 game in the 8th. Cody Bellinger takes ball 1 from Robert Gesellman. Boy, what a frustrating time to be a fan of the Mets this season as a whole, and tonight a perfect example. Bellinger strokes one to left center field for a leadoff hit.
Yeah, the frustration has been, even as they do win games, they're in every game. They're a moment away from making something change the results, and that is just caught looking for a different pitch, and the ground ball gets out of the inning. Of course, Dave Roberts says, "Good job, young man," turning it over to the rest of the pen. But we talked to Mickey, and he said, we're in every game. It's not like we're getting blown out in every one of these games. We're just not putting all our facets together.
7 and 14 in one-run games this year. Here's Puig looking at a strike, and it almost, that at bat for Frazier looks like it's become a mental thing. A fastball right down the middle, where there's so many different ways you can get the tying run in. Like he's just locked up.
Yeah. Well, in that situation, that was better pitching in the sense that I, too, if I was thinking along with Frazier, was looking at a curveball that I could do something with. And he threw him the 2 fastballs inner half that locked him up. With 2 strikes, you got to get out of that. You got to be in kind of hack mode. Find a way to barrel something up, even if it's a weak grounder.
Ball on a strike on Puig.
That's why the statement strikeouts are overrated, meaning they don't mean as much, as the most ridiculous statement in baseball today. They never drive in a run, ever. Yeah, if you're going to strike out with nobody on, I get it. Strikeouts with nobody on don't mean as much.
Conforto went back at first, comes on and can't get it. Bellinger hustling out of the box, and so is Puig. He is out at second. Bellinger to third, 1 out.
Conforto just did not get a good read on that ball. He stood in his position for a while. Big swing, but didn't get the results that the fly ball. And of course, Puig did the same thing, anticipating something to happen, and it cost him. Now the Mets will walk and set up for a double play. I mean, this is the one thing I probably would never make a good manager, in the sense that I would only ask my players to never assume anything. Just don't assume. If you never assume, you'll never be in my doghouse, right? Pop-up's going to get caught. Don't assume.
If you're a manager, is Yasiel Puig out of the game at this point?
Not out of the game, because there is a runner on third. He got, there's a runner on third, but you run yourself out of a big inning. Second and third, nobody out. There's a lot more. The first and third, nobody out.
Squeeze play. Hernandez puts it down. Flip to the plate, not in time. Bellinger's under the tag, and the Dodgers collect insurance. Kike Hernandez brings home Cody Bellinger, and a team that has been as home run reliant as any plays some small ball to get their 4th run here.
Perfectly executed. The only play is a do-or-die play, and he reads it off the bat, and his long strides gets in there fairly easy. Selman did the best he could. Execution by the Dodgers has been the theme tonight. 2-out double, right? Knocked in 2 off of DeGrom, and now perfectly executed squeeze, or in this case, safety squeeze, first and third. So undefendable, cannot defend the play, and rarely any teams use it.
First and second, 1 gone, and Chase Utley's the hitter. Here in his first game since May 29, disabled list with a thumb injury, looks at a strike. The Dodgers doing a little bit of everything offensively tonight, when lately it's kind of been boom or bust. They did get the boom. They got the home run from Muncy in the first inning. You mentioned the 2-out double in the 4th. Small ball to get the 4th run here in the 8th. Time for flipping the switch, sponsored by Boost Mobile, and it goes back to that Chris Taylor pinch hit double in the 4th inning. He's been out recently with a hamstring injury. Came out right after this for a pinch runner, but his lone appearance was a productive one. Giving the Dodgers a lead they've not given up.
Yeah, that was with 2 outs. Think of how many opportunities the Mets have had with nobody out. 1 out. Well, winning baseball, that's the things you got to do, and that's what the Dodgers are now on rhythm. Unlike their start, seems like everything they've done lately has been right with the resume of what they build.
Trying to move to 14-5 in June, 24-9 since mid-May. Utley hits a ground ball off of Gesellman, and everybody's safe. Bases loaded here in the 8th. And the Dodgers' best candidate for All-Star, Matt Kemp, with a pinch hit opportunity here with the bases jammed. One of the big surprises in the National League this year. We touched on the story a little bit earlier, but acquired, it was basically a salary swap with the Atlanta Braves prior to the season. And the line at that point was basically, yes, he's on the roster at this point, but a good chance that he's not there when spring training arrives. Well, he was there when spring training opened. Produced early on. And they said, why not give him a chance to at least compete for the spot? Wound up winning the opening day left fielder job. And here he is, top 5 in the National League, hitting .320. And one of the leading vote getters among National League outfielders.
Hey, looked great. Lost weight, healthy. Not much has changed in his swing path and exit velocity.
Kemp swings. It's a high fly ball to left. Nimmo's back. That is a grand slam for Matt Kemp. And the Dodgers have broken things open in the 8th. And a pinch hit grand slam at that. So hitting coach Turner Ward's message to him when he gets into the dugout is good game, because that's it for him tonight. Jock Peterson with 1 out, takes ball 1.
Yeah, you don't see many of those. Sit around, enjoying your day, go pinch hit with the bases loaded.
2 games in New York this weekend, and a grand slam in each for the Dodgers. It was Bellinger last night. It's Kemp tonight. Fades in for a strike, 1 and 2. Who would have thought, Smoltzy, that Alex Wood, Zach Wheeler would be the bada bing, bada boom pitching matchup, pitchers duel. And then we'd have 8-2 and Jacob deGrom, Clayton Kershaw. Not their faults, but still.
Yeah, the rhythm of this game changes obviously with 1 swing, and the last 2 nights it's been the Dodgers 1 swing. Grand slams and consecutive nights, and for a game that had many opportunities for the Mets to have the lead changes everything. It changes how you pitch to guys, who you bring in. And certainly some misplays didn't help the Mets either.
With 2 gone, Max Muncy looks at strike 1.
I mean, the inning previous, a misplay, you could say, even though the ball took a different turn on Bellinger, was an opportunity to tie the game up, and then a misplay here opened up a big inning that ended up being 5 runs. And now the stadium empties.
Barring a huge comeback for the Mets. It'll be their 13th home loss out of their last 14 here. Yasmani Garcia gets ready for the 8th inning. This has been one of the stories, one of the primary reasons for the struggles for New York, the bullpen. Tonight they've given up 5 runs in 1 2/3. Oh, 2 to Muncy, fouled off. And as the tumble continues, the Mets trend farther and farther towards becoming sellers. One and 2. Yeah, there are some pieces on this team that people would kill for.
Yeah.
Thinking about DeGrom and Syndergaard.
Absolutely.
And then a few other less impactful pieces, but good trade chips nonetheless. Asdrubal Cabrera, as far as a position player, several pieces out of the bullpen. But how far are they willing to go in tearing it down? Muncy strikes out swinging. That's that for the Dodgers in the 8th, but they score 5 times in the inning. Matt Kemp with a pinch hit grand slam. His resurrection continues this year, making that guy a happy camper.
And no matter what they say.
Seventh in queue. What's it gonna take? Now by Hankook Tire, chase down your passion, never halfway. Baseball's two biggest events of the summer back-to-back, with the action beginning at the T-Mobile Home Run Derby July 16th on ESPN at 8 Eastern, and then catch baseball's biggest stars at the 89th All-Star Game presented by MasterCard July 17th right here on Fox. Amy Garcia to pitch the 8th for the Dodgers, misses with ball 1 to Wilmer Flores.
Kind of slings it. Fastball. Numbers on the year, 16 games.
Return from Tommy John surgery. 1 ball 1 strike on Flores, with Conforto and Bautista to follow here in the 8th. 5-run top of the inning, putting things on ice for the Dodgers. 2-1. That's corked foul. 2-2. And as the Mets continue to fade here, Ken Rosenthal, what are you hearing on the market for some of the guys we're talking about if the Mets do become sellers?
Well, the question really is, what direction do they want to go? They have, as John said, the ability to build around DeGrom and Syndergaard, but that's kind of what they tried to do this year, and obviously it hasn't worked out.
Lifted to center field. Bellinger racing back to catch it on the track.
So from there, where do you go? Well, you certainly could trade one of the two. DeGrom is under control through 2020, Syndergaard through 2021. My suggestion would be sign DeGrom and then trade Syndergaard. And the reason is this. DeGrom is your guy. You drafted him, you developed him. He's been a fabulous Met. Obviously, it would cost a ton of money, and this team does not always spend a ton of money. But we're talking about most likely a 7-year deal, $25 million to $30 million. Then you trade Syndergaard for 2 or 3 young players, provided he gets healthy, and then you add to this core of young talent that they have. They've got some pieces: Nimmo, Conforto, Gesellman, Lugo, right down the line, but they need more. Their farm system is improving. It's not as good as it should be. They've got to get more players here, and trading one of those guys is the way to do it.
Tie on Conforto, and it's 1-1. If they do decide to part with Syndergaard or to part with DeGrom, any chance the Dodgers could be in on one of those guys?
I am quite certain they would ask Joe, and the question would be, could they satisfy the Mets with the talent that they would offer?
Fly ball to left field. Jock Peterson, 2 out.
In the case of DeGrom, I'm not sure any team can meet the Mets' price. My understanding is they're going to want a boatload, and understandably so, for a guy you'd have control of for 3 pennant races. But with the Dodgers, okay, where would you start? You'd probably start with their big-time catcher, a kid named Ruiz, 19 years old in Double-A. You could throw in Alex Verdugo, you could add some prospects to it. Would that be enough for the Mets? Would Mets fans like that? I'm not so sure they would. So the Mets would want a Gleyber Torres, an Ozzie Albies, somebody along those lines. In today's environment, that is not going to happen. So it's really going to be a difficult thing for them, obviously, to trade one of the two, and they can't do it unless they get the right deal.
Bautista climbs the ladder, sends a mammoth drive to center, and leaves the building for the 2nd night in a row. Jose Bautista recapturing some of his power from his youth. His 4th home run of the year, his 2nd in as many nights in an 8-3 game.
Bautista did miss that high fastball. Different angle high fastball with that lower 3/4. And that one is more like what Bautista has been known for. Majestic high fly balls that leave the yard.
Nice catch out there. Azaracco with 2 out. I know that Kenny says somebody like Gleyber Torres could get the job done, but that's not going to happen in this climate. You look at it the other way, and if you were the Yankees, you would consider that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Nice play by Turner.
And it's going to end the inning, so hold that thought. As we go to the 9th, I want to hear what John Smoltz thinks about trading Gleyber Torres. Blasphemous around here.
Cubs did it.
That's true. By Hankook Tire on a night where they've hit a couple of long home runs. A squeeze play. Hernandez bringing home Cody Bellinger, helping give the Dodgers some insurance in the 8th. And Kemp would follow that with a grand slam to break this game open. And Justin Turner taking ball 1 from Drew Smith in his major league debut. 24 years old out of Fort Worth, Texas. Really good numbers in the minors, a hitters league. That's a hard hit chopper that's knocked down by Frazier. Recovers to get Turner. All right, Smokey. So I'm Sandy Alderson.
Yep.
I call you. You're running the Yankees, and I say, hey, I hear you may have some interest in Jacob deGrom. Not doing it without Gleyber Torres. You say what?
I'm saying that's where I start. I start with him and maybe a couple others, but I'm saying the package that I could get if I have to settle away from a Gleyber Torres is I'm definitely getting Andujar, Sheffield, Frazier. I'm getting 4 impact players for a guy that, for what's going to happen to the Yankees, is it would make an absolute game changer. The Yankees have put themselves in a situation where offensively they're going to make the playoffs no matter what they do from the starting rotation. But what they haven't been able to address is, because their bullpen's so good, the depth of their starters would be, how do you go up against Boston? How do you go up against Houston in the postseason? Not necessarily in a regular season. So what I would do is franchise change my organization with already Severino at the elite level, and if I get another elite guy. But that's my point. Like the Cubs won a World Series by trading a guy they didn't want to trade, Torres, by getting Chapman. Imagine, more than likely not going to happen, imagine Torres being responsible for 2 teams winning the World Series.
4-pitch walk for Bellinger. It's a little easier PR move, PR sell for the Cubs, though, because he hadn't become what he's become for the Yankees at that point.
Correct. And I think, you know, we all in this league get carried away one way or another with a guy's performance. Either struggling early, he doesn't have it, or success early and he's going to be a superstar. So I get how the game works. But when you have a polished veteran guy that you know you can count on, that somehow you might be able to attain, that changes your dynamics of what now becomes World Series. Because let's face it, last year, who could have thought, even 2 years ago, how close the Yankees were getting to another World Series, because they really hadn't rebuilt in theory, and they just rebooted. So it's one of those things, as a general manager, you push as hard as you can, and if you get something close to that, you feel great about the direction your organization's going. But the notion that you can't trade within the same market or same city, I think that's foolish.
One ball, one strike on the Yasiel Puig in an 8-3 game here in the 9th. He takes ball 2.
And my final point is, there's only a couple guys in the league right now that you could say that about, that would demand so much that you would have to think strongly about doing it. There's not that many guys on teams that would change your franchise like a deGrom or Syndergaard. Where else could you go?
Yeah, I mean, that's about it.
That's really about it. And I think, you know, all the other pieces are nice, and they're going to be moves that are made. Starters are going to leave. Probably Cole Hamels, maybe Jay Happ. They're probably going to go somewhere to add strength to a team.
Let's keep in mind, though, with Syndergaard, I mean, while the potential is very high, the guy's only made 15 starts the last 2 years. Hasn't pitched in a month at this point.
Yeah, that's down the road. That, again, all of this would be given the fact that everything checks off the boxes of health and just the blip in the radar screen.
First strikeout of Smith's career is of Yasiel Puig. 2 gone in the 9th inning. There are 3 teams in the American League over 50 wins. It's the second time in Major League history that 3 teams enter this date with better than 50 wins. Yankees and Red Sox in the East and the Astros in the West. Isn't it something that either the Yankees or the Red Sox could have their season end on one night in a wild card game?
Yep, I'm not a fan of it. I never have been, but I know the idea of why it was created. Baseball is a game played with series. It's the whole year you play a series. And to have a one-game eliminator, in theory, sounds good for excitement and TV and must-watch, but more than likely a 100-win team is going to be fighting for a one-game spot.
It's a 1-1 to Grandal, and it misses ball 2. Edward Paredes getting ready in the Dodger bullpen. Is the alternative turning that wild card game into a 3-game series, or is it a bigger discussion?
I think it's a bigger discussion, but I've always liked the idea of a best of 3 and reward the team that has a better record. To make it tougher for that team that survives, they got to spend 2 pitchers now to get, and maybe 3. And the whole idea of when would you do it and how do you do it? Well, there's so many off days anyways in the postseason that there's almost as many off days in the postseason if you go all the way than there is in the regular season. So players are conditioned to get in at 2 in the morning to play the next day. You could actually even get super creative and do that best of 3 in 2 days.
That'd be fun. That is ball 4 high, 1st and 2nd with 2 out.
Day-night doubleheader.
That is sweet. And so if you split it, you play another day.
Yep.
Give it kind of a March Madness feel for a day. I like it. Hernandez with 2 out of the 9th inning. Looks at a fastball strike.
I just hope people who love this sport will be willing to embrace in this sport what other people have already embraced in other sports. Change is coming, and change is going to be for the good. And this is the sport that has been the slowest to change.
So you think a change to the wild card format is imminent?
I think changes in general are coming. The way the game's being played, some of the things that we see the game now and are concerned long term from, you know, it always is under the guide of time of game, but there's more to it that's going on. The lack of action. You know, whether it's talking about banning the shift or making adjustments to the shift, whether it's talking about pitch clocks, whether it's talking about format changes to the playoff structure. There's a lot of things that, you know, are probably a little farther away, but I'd like to see baseball get back to a balanced schedule and play everybody.
Chopper, 3rd, Frazier, and Drew Smith puts up a 0 in his major league debut. To the bottom of the 9th we go in New York. Stars for an unforgettable show from the nation's capital. It's the Major League Baseball All-Star Game, July 17th, only on Fox. Also stream it live on the Fox Sports app. From DC, Amy Garcia warmed up, but Dave Roberts is now going to come out and take it from him before the start of this bottom of the 9th inning. They'll now go to Edward Paredes.
One of the changes that might be coming down the road.
Wave of superstars have joined some of the game's legends in a new season of the Big Three. Friday at 8 Eastern, live on Fox, or stream it all on the Fox Sports app. Amy Garcia takes a seat. Edward Paredes comes on for the bottom of the 9th. Spotless ERA in his 8 games in the majors so far this year, facing Dom Smith, who turns his shoulder on ball 1.
No walks, 7 strikeouts. Pretty nice start.
Same can be said for Dom Smith, at least when you put the full body of work together with what he's done over the last few days. 2 games in early May, then caught up again on June 12th when Adrian Gonzalez was cut loose. 23-year-old from Los Angeles takes the ball, and it's 2-0.
Looks a lot slimmer.
Sure does.
Yeah, looks some changes were made. He's hoping, and maybe Mets are hoping, that he can lock down a position.
First baseman by trade, but he's played some left. That is one of the silver linings the Mets can try to find during this rough year, is they're going to get a chance to see a guy like Dominic Smith maybe a little bit earlier on an everyday basis than they would have. Getting to see Conforto and Nimmo get at bats against lefties. Gathering information about some guys. 3-1. A pop-up. Utley near the sidewall with Muncy. It is Max Muncy for the first out. So the Mets, barring a miracle rally here in the 9th inning, will lose their 22nd out of their last 28. They'll fall to 20-42 since the 11-1 start. That is by far the worst in the National League. it will be the 11th consecutive defeat for the Mets against the Dodgers. Jose Reyes. Ball one.
So to finish that last thought, I don't understand when we play 162 games why we can't play everybody in baseball. So you play a balanced schedule in your own division, you play your own National League team 6 times, and you play the American League teams 3 times. And you alternate home and away every other year.
Pop the left.
That way everybody gets to see Mike Trout, everyone gets to see maybe, you know, Clayton Kershaw, the likes of that. I just don't understand why we haven't been able to do that when we're competing for a wild card, when 2 different teams could have 2 different schedules for that 1-game wild card. Makes no sense to me.
So you would keep interleague play.
Well, if that's what people like, I don't like it. I would either go back the old way or just universally play everybody. And yes, technically keep interleague play and make sure every single city gets to see every single team at least every other year, instead of where it's once every 6-7 years you get to see those teams.
Nimmo hits cue shot to third. Justin Turner throws on the move and a wide throw. Keeps the door open for now. Nimmo's aboard with 2 out. Would you be in favor of completely getting rid of the divisions, just having 2 leagues?
You could do that too. There's a lot of things, and you know, I think more importantly, regionalize or realign. And all of that sounds better when you get 2 more teams to even it out. Then it makes a perfect world. Then you make it strategic to the regions that everyone's in, because certain teams, you know, obviously have a way disadvantage on their travel versus the others. So I'm like, go big or go home. I think if you're going to make changes, prepare to make big time changes that last, and people get used to it.
Todd Frazier with 2 outs, strike 1. They got to get Oakland and Tampa Bay, those stadium situations figured out. It's kind of holding it all up as far as expansion.
But Seattle's having a great year, and based on this year, you know, this travel's the best they're ever going to be. I don't think they come across the Mississippi anymore past this road trip. But you think of what they have to do versus what the other teams, their travel's murder on them. And so they're going to have a big lead, which they do right now for that 1 spot that they currently hold in the wild card.
Beating a team tonight they could face in that wild card game of the Boston Red Sox. Paredes to Frazier with an 0-2. That's that. The Dodgers all over the Mets in this one by a final of 8-3, and they're 14-5 in June. Best in the National League.
Well, this is what we expected. You know, when the season started, the Dodgers, one of the favorites to win their division. I don't think this is what everyone expected with the Mets.
They get Kershaw back tonight. He goes 3 innings, relatively sharp. Caleb Ferguson gets his first major league win, throwing 4 shutout innings. And they beat Jacob deGrom, scoring 3 times against him tonight. First team to do that. 3 earned runs against deGrom since mid-April. Dave Roberts' team back to a season high 5 games above 500, and as you saw a moment ago, within 2.5 of the Diamondbacks in the West. Big blow in this one came from Matt Kemp when the game was still hanging in the balance in the 8th. The pinch hit grand slam as his push towards the All-Star game continued. Got back into the dugout. Hitting coach Turner Ward said to him, "Good game tonight. 1 at bat and as productive as it could be." He stands by with Ken Rosenthal.
Matt, pinch hit grand slam in the 8th. How different is it doing that as a pinch hitter versus being in the lineup?
It's a little different. You got to get moving around a lot earlier. Starting to get the hang of it a little bit, you know, when I'm not in there in games. Talk to some of the guys, and they just say get warm early and stay moving. So just kind of listen to that and try to apply it to the game.
All right, coming into the season, you've been traded, you lost all the weight, and yet you were still a long shot to make the club. What were your expectations?
My expectations were to, of course, make this team and you know, try to help them any way possible. Been doing good so far. The team's been playing really well. I'm happy where we're at. We just got to keep it going. Long season ahead of us.
All right, you're among the leaders in the All-Star balloting for National League outfielders. You haven't been in the game since 2012. what would it mean to get back?
Oh, that would be great, man. I think my family would really enjoy that. You know, it's been a while, so we'll see what happens.
Matt, thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Joe, back to you.
All right, Kenny. Hey, before we go, Smoltzy, good luck in the Open next week, my man.
Thank you very much. I'm going to grind.
They're going to do great. Can't wait to follow it. And you can obviously follow it on FS1 over the weekend. The U.S. Senior Open. John Smoltz taking his talents to Colorado Springs. Dodgers win this one 8-3. For John and for Ken, Joe Davis wishing you a good night from New York. Dodgers have taken the first 2 games of this series and will go for the sweep tomorrow. After this break, Mike Hill, Eric Karros from our Los Angeles studio.